which is to only fund the account from pure excess money. Only thing that goes into your G account is things that money you can afford to put in there after you paid your expenses, after you filled your actual discretionary going out to dinner money, right? After you've loaded your savings account, your retirement account, after every expense you've got. Today, in session 2 of Money Management Gambling 201, I want to talk about funding your fun. In other words, where does the money that you gamble with come from? And this is kind of an important piece here, right? Let's go here. Let's remember the golden rule of gambling. And I think you've heard this from everybody. I think every gambling book ever written probably has this written in it. Everybody on YouTube has probably said this at some point, right? Don't gamble with money you can't afford to lose. This is the number one thing. The guys from the NCPG, the National Council on Problem Gambling, said this too, right? Where you get into trouble is when you're gambling with money that you need to live on. Food money, rent money, mortgage money, college fund money for your kids, whatever it is, right? You can't afford it, don't put it out there. And I know that this sounds like, of course, kind of advice. For most of you listening to this, it's like, oh, we know this already, John. Here's the thing, and I said this to you in the previous session. Your kids may not know this. You may say it, but your kids don't always hear what you say. If you've got young kids or grandkids that are starting to get into casino gaming, they should be watching this show and hearing this message, right? Pass the word along. Don't gamble money you can't afford to lose. And I'll use my son as an example. He's just getting started. He's 26 years old, right? 25 years old. He's just getting going with his life. He's following the rules that I'm about to show you with how he builds his gambling fund. And it's small, right? It's small. He's betting $10 is what's in his DraftKings account. He's not betting big money. His unit size is tiny, right? Because he's setting money aside specifically to do this in kind of a, like I say, like a professional sort of way. So what we do is recommend that everybody create what's called, and this is the first account you're going to make, your gambling account. We call it the 401g account, right? Just make an account at your bank. And in that account goes the money where you gamble from. Now, what you want to call it, your master bankroll, whatever you want to call it, that is your gambling money. It is your fund, okay? It's the only money that you're allowed to gamble with, period, right? So in times of your life where you're, okay, and that account has money in it, you can use it to gamble with. In times of your life when that account is empty because you needed it for something else, which has happened to a lot of us, you can't gamble. That's it. That account dictates if you can go or not. It is completely separate from your life bank accounts. In fact, and I'll use myself as an example, my 401g account is at a different bank than my regular account. And we'll talk again more about this tomorrow. I keep it in a separate bank. Why? So I can't transfer money. I cannot transfer money from my checking account to my gambling account. It's impossible to do that for a reason. Of course, I trust myself, but I don't, right? I make sure that I cannot transfer money from here to there. That money is only ever getting deposited into from outside sources. It never gets in from my checking account. It's totally separate from my life account. Matter of fact, it's 100% burnable money. If that bank gets blown up or robbed, I don't care. I mean, I care, but it wouldn't affect my life at all. Nothing in my life would change if that whole bank account got emptied out. That's how I treat that money. That's how everybody should treat that money, right? The separate fund totally set aside for gambling with. Again, separate from your life, separate bank account, funded separately. That's the safe way to approach any of this stuff. So you can pursue all these fun strategies and all these interesting ways to play from a position of relative safety, where you have burnable dollars that you're using for this, not required living dollars, okay? Now, the question is always, how do you load it up, right? When you get started, you got nothing in that account, right? Obviously, it's a zero-based account to start with, right? Lots of ways to get in there. And here's the rules that I told my son this: pure excess money is the only thing that you can feed that account with, okay? Don't take half your paycheck and drop it in there to get yourself started, right? If you have excess money after you've paid all your expenses, your rent, your food, whatever, your car, all the things that go on, you got some extra money in your account. Some of that money after all your expenses, you can drip into the account a little bit, right? Even after you have discretionary funds, like we do. Like we have, my wife and I have money that we, of course, live on. We put our paychecks into an account. We live on that paycheck, on that account. We have discretionary funding that we fill. We have other trip money that we fill up. We have accounts for different things. After all that's filled, right? All of our planned, our retirement savings, right? All of these things get filled up first. Only then do I take a little bit extra if I want to and put it into our gambling accounts. And my wife has one too, right? We might take a little bit and split. And that way, when we go to Vegas or wherever else, we have the money to play, right? That's what that's for. But it's post everything, right? Everything after my expenses, my planned discretionary spending, my savings account, my retirement, everything. That's what goes into the 401k account from my life money, from my earnings, okay? Also, I and other people fill their 401ks from side money, right? And that's okay. I'm a computer programmer. I do websites. You want a website? Hire me, right? Website money that I make, I will split that up, right? We go into everything else. I load up discretionary funds, I fund retirement, I fund everything else, and a percentage of that left over goes into the G account, right? So I fund my life with my excess income, but I also drip extra of that into the G account, right? That's how I work that thing. Only ever excess or side money gets in there. Some people will put a slice of their excess in this thing as well, whether it's from taxes, tax returns, whatever else it could be. A slice of your excess money can feed it up, right? I know people who actually DoorDash for this. I know people who actually drive DoorDash, and they say, I'm going to go DoorDash a couple nights a week, maybe on Saturdays, and that feeds my G account. And I'm going to drive around, put the radio on. One guy said, I listen to you on YouTube while I drive around, and I DoorDash, and I make a few $100. That's what I play with. Fine. It doesn't affect your life, right? That's really all I'm asking for, is make an account that you control that's separate from everything else. I think it's a really important thing. Even some dividend, if you're making dividends, not a bad place to stash some of that cash. And again, use it for some fun, okay? And again, like me, the side hustle income goes there as well. So how do you use your 401k account? Well, here's the interesting thing. And we're gonna dive into this when we get into our sessions on goal planning and session planning. But at a high level, what you do is this. Your 401k, you look at it as a holistic amount of money, whatever is in there. If it's $1,000, it's $1,000. If it's 5,000, if it's 10,000, whatever's in there, you look at that and say, this is going to be portioned by a percentage that I'm willing to risk at one session, or an amount that I need to achieve some goal. As an example, $5,000 in the 401k account. Let's say you got $5,000 in there. That could be 10 $500 sessions. That could be take the $5,000 to Vegas for 10 $500 planned sessions. Now you got a plan to lose every one of them, right? You could say, well, I'm only ever going to risk half of that, so I'll take 2,500 to Vegas. And now I've got either 10 250 sessions or 5 $500 sessions that I can use it for. If you look at that 401k account and say, I'm willing to risk a percentage of this on this trip, on this session, and again, plan your life accordingly. If you're going to play a local casino 2 times a week, you look at that bankroll differently than if you're saying, I'm going to go once a year to Vegas with it. So you look at that different, right? But your funds in that account are to pay or give you the backing for multiple play sessions. And you portion that out by your percentage you're looking to win or some goal, right? Again, I'm playing with $3,000 on my daily paycheck show, right? If I have $5,000 in my bank, I'm saying, well, I'm going to risk more than half of it to win the $500. You're putting a lot of it at risk, but you're on a plan to do a thing. And that's, I think, where the planning session comes from, right? That decision drives the strategy, or the strategy drives your decision. If I'm going to play a ladder system, I need more money. If I'm going to play black chip betting, I need more money. That strategy play and your goal defines how much percentage comes out of that account. But that account has to be the feeder for your sessions. And ideally, it feeds multiple sessions. If you're going to be the prototypical 10% player, you should only ever take 10% out of that account, right? $5,000, $500 is my buy-in ever for one session. You never take more than 10% of that account out. That $500 at the table is either going to be used 10% win goal, whatever you're doing with that. That's kind of a way to sort of have a plan around it. I say here, keep meticulous notes, right? When you put money in, note the source. When you take money out, note the source. When you're logging wins and losses, log everything. I'm going to give you some tools here in the next few days that'll help you log it. If you have an account at casinogaming.tv or the upcoming Casino Gaming TV app for your phone, all of those things that you can use to track and plan are going to be apps on your phone or on the website you can use to keep track of stuff, right? Log everything. Be a pack rat in terms of logging stuff. You've got to write it down. You got to know what won, what lost, how you played, where the money came from, how you spent the money. Because again, not everything out of that G account will be spent on a table. It'll be spent in other places too. Note it all and keep a full accounting record of it. And I know that for most people, this is not your lifestyle. This is not your business, right? There's a tiny, tiny percentage of people who look at gambling as a business. I mean, like infinitesimal amount of people. The rest of us, I say keep good notes because it's good to treat it like a business anyway, right? Look at your ins, your money coming in from all the different sources. Hopefully your gambling is winning and you're building it through that. Look at your expenses and how it all tracks down. And look at the end of the year, look at like a sheet and see, okay, how did this account do? How did we do this year in our 401g, in our gambling lifestyle? How did we do? Expenses, wins, losses, whatever else you got to factor in there. How did all that combine to a balance statement at the end of the year? And I think taking good notes will show you whether or not A, you're making a mistake somewhere, you'll have big blips and outliers, or B, how well you're doing with managing your money. I think managing your money starts with having this separate account, understanding how to separate it from your life, and keeping things on the, I hate to say the up and up, the straight and narrow, but keeping things foundationally separate. Gambling over here, life over here. And work this thing like its own separate little business. That's so important to do. I put a quote here from Russell Wilson. I know he played for the Hawks here in Seattle for a while, and people ride him a lot for being kind of corny. But this is one of his quotes, and I actually think this is a great quote. He says, "The separation is in the preparation." He used to always say that after games, right? And I think it's true. I say to you all the time, practice, practice, practice. Practice your betting, practice your money management, practice everything. A lot of YouTubers, Ed from Roll to Win says it too, practice like you play like you practice. It's important to prepare, right? Prepare your money to be played. Prepare your bank account to have the money in it so you can play. Prepare how much you're going to pull out. Prepare what your goals are before you leave your house. All of that cannot be understated. It's when you go on tilt and say, "Wow, screw it. Screw it. I got 5K. I'm bringing 5K to Vegas. We're just going to burn the whole damn thing." That, right, is not a prepared move. Like that's one of those things where you're like, you're going on tilt ahead of time, right? I think that we have to think about making good choices. And so having that account separate, I think, is the first step towards making the good choice. And I think it's a really important thing. So I hope that that all kind of resonates for you and gives you a kind of a starting point. And again, share this with somebody who needs it to be shared with. Like, again, a lot of you have gambled for a long time and you know stuff. You know this. I'm repeating things you know. There may be somebody in your life who doesn't know. This is a good high-level intro on what to do here, right? Separate the money. Fund it from sources that are not part of your regular life, right? Excess income only goes into this account, right? Anything above and beyond, you can load in there a little bit. That's how you get started. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about splitting this up into multiple accounts. Now, one of our subscribers out here, Ryan from Mark the Point, I just saw put a comment in there about Dave Ramsey, okay? He says, Dave Ramsey changed his life. Dave Ramsey changed my life too. I never did this. I gambled with, my wife and I would literally look at our checking account and go, we have $100 or whatever it was, and not, let's go play, right? We never did this. We got into financial trouble when I was younger. We did. And it took a lot of soul searching, a lot of hard work to dig ourselves out of some holes that we had put ourselves into in our late 20s, early 30s. And Ramsey was a big part of that. And separating your money, it was a huge deal for us. Separating our money into multiple accounts that were partitioned for certain uses, and being fully transparent with the whole thing changed my life. And now I treat my gambling accounts the exact same way. Tomorrow, I'll show you both. I'll show you how I set up my personal accounts and how I set up my gambling accounts. And I think you're going to see that just a little bit of organization. When you see how I do it, it'll explain why I'm so like this all the time with you all. But you'll see how far a little bit of organization can go. So that's it, guys. That's my high level look at funding your fun, setting up a 401g account for the purposes of funding your gambling. And then again, how you can fund that account. And I repeat what I said earlier, which is to only fund the account from pure excess money. Only thing that goes into your G account is things that money you can afford to put in there after you paid your expenses, after you filled your actual discretionary going out to dinner money, right? After you've loaded your savings account, your retirement account, after every expense you've got. Load it with side money that you earn, a slice of your excess, your tax return, dividends, maybe a side hustle. That's the only way that money ever gets into that account. It never gets transferred from your checking account or your savings account. It only gets in there from excess money earned from a side hustle or something else. That's got to be a hard and fast rule. It'll save you so much heartache. Trust me on this. Arcades, one of our subscribers, said this today during the live chat, which is, an old fart told me 15 years ago, what I win at the table isn't going to change my life. And likewise, losing what I bring also isn't going to change my life. Both statements have to be true, okay? This is critical when we look at setting up how much you plan to win, how much you plan to lose, and where that money comes from is critical when we set up our bank accounts. I love that statement. Your old fart friend has it spot on, and thanks for sharing that with us. I think it's a great way to look at this, right? It's nice when you have a life-changing win. It's not required. It's also not good to have a life-changing loss. If the money all comes from a separate account, then it won't be the case, right? The account grows a little bit. That's such a great and leveling statement. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Please feel free to leave us a comment here in the comment section for the video, but really better still, join us on Discord. Go to casinogaming.tv and hit the community link in the menu there and join our Discord. That's where me, other YouTubers, and all of our subscribers hang out. We sit there and talk strategy and just BS kind of all day long. It's a great way to get connected and stay connected and kind of interact with the team, learn about meetups and get-togethers and all that kind of stuff. So with all that said, again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your time. God bless you, and I will see you in the next one.